With his golden boy good looks, on-screen charisma, environmental convictions, and commitment to supporting independent film, Robert Redford was a giant of Hollywood. As tributes pour in following his death at 89 years old, we're taking a look back at the life and times of a mainstay of American cinema.
Yeah.
I want you to take a look at my horse.
I don't know that I can do anything, but I'm prepared to give it a go if you'll help. Do you have a problem with that?
Isn't it, like, obvious?
Not to me.
Doesn't it matter to you that I'm another man's wife?
What matters to me is that you tried so hard, and that you're alone now. You just keep thinking, that's what you're good at.
An incredible pair of rugged adventurers, creating a living legend on 2 continents.
But it's just one guy. Don't you get sick of being right all the time?
They rob trains.
Well, to tell us more about the man and his prolific career, I'm joined by film critic Emma Jones. Hi, Emma. And Robert Redford's biographer, author Michael Feeney Callan. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Now, we just got a glimpse of some of Redford's greatest star turns. So we've saw, for example, the 1969 film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Now, Emma, this was something of a breakout role for Redford, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think it was the role that really made him a celebrity icon. He had won a Golden Globe for Best Newcomer a few years earlier, but it was the success of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It was a huge commercial vehicle. It made around $102 million at the American box office. Now, Robert Redford took on the role of the Sundance Kid, and it was a role that Jack Lemmon, Steve McQueen, the likes of Warren Beatty, they'd all turned down. Impossible to think of anyone else playing those roles. It was a different kind of Western at the time, made for a late 60s audience. It really turned a page, I suppose, on the Western genre. They didn't play traditionally masculine cowboys per se. And of course, this incredible chemistry that Robert Redford had with his co-star, the also incredibly handsome Paul Newman, as these 2 cowboys, really turned them into a couple of stars. And of course, they reprised that role a few years later in The Sting, which I believe earned Redford his first Oscar nomination.
And Michael, we tend to think of Robert Redford as this incredibly successful actor in the 1970s. But when you were writing your book, he was very honest and told you that actually his start, he had a bit of a rough beginning in the profession.
Yeah, Bob used to always, he's a very compartmentalized person. And he used to say, today we'll talk about Robert Redford, or then he'd say, alternately, we'll talk about me. So there were 2 different things there going on. He kind of fell into acting. He didn't intend to be an actor. He intended to be a painter, came to the Beaux-Arts in Paris, and all the rest, couldn't make it. And then his stepmother, Helen Coomber, who was a successful radio actress in the 20s and 30s, she pushed him towards her friends at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, where people like Grace Kelly and Kirk Douglas were trained. And it was his interest in mythology and poetry that took him into storytelling. He liked the idea of acting, found himself very quickly in a couple of Broadway plays, Tall Story and Little Moon of Albion, with some great actors like Julie Harris. And then it was the golden age of American cinema in the 50s going into the 60s. Writers like Rod Serling and Paddy Chayefsky. He got some good roles, Eugene O'Neill roles and things like that, and took off very quickly. It surprised him, he told me, that he made it as an actor, because he had never for one moment, other than going to the movies with his mom and liking actors like Van Heflin, Dana Andrews, Franklin Pangborn, kind of background actors, not the main stars, although he was in love with Greer Garson. He got involved in cinema. He was kind of focused on the finance aspect of it, because he'd kind of businessman plans from the beginning, which eventually matured into Sundance and his activism generally, a whole plate of activism, a whole slate rather, I should say, of activism. But that period from 1960, from doing films and starting with movie successes like Barefoot in the Park and This Property is Condemned with Natalie Wood, and his friendship with Sidney Pollack, his director friend, best friend throughout all his life. That kind of bloomed through to the 60s, when George Roy Hill, and especially Paul was the one who was responsible for him getting the role in Butch Cassidy, Paul Newman. And Paul spoke to me. Obviously, I had access to friends, family, and Bob's diaries, which I still have, and the various scripts over the years. And you can see the evolution of an actor who was surprised to be an actor.
Almost an accidental career path there. Well, since his death was announced, we've learned just how much Robert Redford was appreciated in the industry and by his fans. Let's take a look at some of those reactions from Daniel Quinlan.
He was an icon of the silver screen. Around the world, people mourned and paid tribute to his life and legacy, including today's stars.
It was a huge loss to our community. Not only was he an incredible actor, we all know his work, but his as a director too, films like Quiz Show, he was one of the first guys to do political thrillers, 3 Days of the Condor, All the President's Men. He kind of he paved the way for films like this. We lost a legend today.
Beyond the spotlight, he was also known for supporting progressive causes, from environmental conservation to Indigenous rights. Even so, Donald Trump was clearly a fan.
Robert Redford was great. He had a series of years that there was nobody better.
Fittingly, fans were on the Hollywood Walk of Fame to pay tribute.
He's a legend. I remember him from movies like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
The Sting.
And as the director of Ordinary People, which I think is a great movie. He won the Oscar, which is great. It's old Hollywood's passing away. And it's sad.
Well, that ought to do it.
If there's a silver lining, as with any passing of a movie star, for young fans it offers the chance to discover the work of a Hollywood legend that they might have missed.
Mitchell knew? Of course, Mitchell knew.
Now, Emma, I noticed that this week his leading ladies had particularly warm words for him. Jane Fonda, Meryl Streep, Barbara Streisand all spoke very fondly of their time working with him. High praise indeed.
Yes, indeed. It just goes to show how popular he was with them, that they all paid tributes. For instance, Meryl Streep, of course, she starred with him in Out of Africa in 1985. She said that one of the lions has passed. Rest in peace, my lovely friend. Great chemistry between the two there. Also incredible chemistry in the 1970s film, The Way We Were, where he starred opposite Barbara Streisand. That was another huge hit. And Jane Fonda, I mean, they starred together a couple of times in movies, the most significant being Barefoot in the Park in 1967. Now, that's a lovely movie. There is incredible chemistry between them in this film, which is a light-hearted comedy where they star as a couple of passionate newlyweds. And she said that she can't stop crying. Indeed, he just had this incredible charisma, undeniable good looks about him that enabled him really to have this hugely successful movie career, even though I suspect his heart was in, more political films, for example, such as All the President's Men in the mid-1970s.
And while Robert Redford was an Academy Award winner, his 2 Oscars were not specifically for acting. One was for directing the 1980 film Ordinary People. Here's a bit more from him on going behind the camera.
When I went to become an actor, I was able to take storytelling further and become a director so I could tell my own stories about how I saw the world. So for me, storytelling is a huge, important element in society. That's how we pass information along.
Indeed, Michael, he seemed to be a very well-respected movie industry professional. Is that the picture you got of him from other people?
He was fixated on the idea of films being educational and they have a value. I mean, this is what really set the fire under Sundance, having a value far beyond entertainment. He acknowledged and felt the osmosis of celebrity was this, as I say, lottery. This was this great win. but that did allow him to underwrite the stuff that he really cared about. He was aware of two Americas. It was something that came up in conversation with him constantly. He didn't like being tarred with the brush of, a left wing. He was a centrist, and he felt that, a film could be curative. You could bring together, progressively, you could bring together an understanding of the multicultural ethnic mix of America in film. And that really is something that it actually drove him. It was the thing that preoccupied him.
And Emma, we can't underestimate, of course, his input in the industry as the founder of the Sundance Film Festival. Tell us a bit about that very important meetup in Utah every year.
Yes, indeed. I think Robert Redford may have done more than nearly anybody else in the US to help the American independent cinema scene. Don't underestimate the importance of the Sundance Film Festival. Over its inception, it's grown to bringing directors to prominence. For example, Richard Linklater for the film Slacker. Ryan Coogler made his debut there with Fruitvale Station. Quentin Tarantino made his name there for Reservoir Dogs, and Steven Soderbergh for Sex, Lies and Videotape in 1989. Chloe Zhao, Ava DuVernay, they all showed some of their first feature films there. So Sundance really has a lot of clout now in terms of promoting independent filmmakers. It also gave documentaries a new kind of cachet. And I was lucky enough to be able to start going to Sundance when Robert Redford was still overall in charge. He'd be there every year at the opening press conference. And there was no doubt at all that he was the daddy of Sundance and the heart of that festival too.
An incredible legacy to leave then beyond his own career for the industry. Thank you so much for your insights, Michael and Emma. Emma, you mentioned one of your favourite films there, a Robert Redford classic, All the President's Men. We'll leave you with a clip of that film from 1976 starring Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman. Do check in with us next time here on Arts 24 for more movies, arts and culture. See you then.
White House.
Howard Hunt, please.
He might be in Mr. Colson's office.
Who's Charles Colson? Did you know Howard Hunt?
Well, the White House said he was doing some investigative work.
What do you say?
They stumbled into Leeds.
Certainly it comes as no surprise to you that Howard was with the CIA.
No surprise at all.
They tripped over clues.
We'd like to see all the material requested by the White House.
All White House transactions are confidential.
This whole thing is a cover-up. It's right on our noses.